Both New York and New Jersey are among the states now debating whether to legalize recreational marijuana. It is, of course, a controversial issue that's got a lot of support, but also a lot of opposition. Our Dominic spoke with some people on each side.
Me and Susan.
On one side of the issue, parents that have buried their children. This is Justin Salomon at age 5, and he was dead of a heroin overdose at the age of 29.
Okay. My son was sick for very long, for 10 years. He started smoking pot at 16 years old, and he moved to stronger drugs at 19 years old. And it was chaos for our family.
So in terms of whether it's a gateway or pathway drug, we had firsthand experience that it was. But he did start experimenting with marijuana, moved on to some other drugs, alcohol, etc., cocaine, harder drugs, pills, and then ultimately heroin.
But for many elected officials, this is about correcting historic wrongs in the criminal justice system.
If you look at the consumption of marijuana historically, the consumption has been equal amongst white communities and communities of color. Yet the overwhelming number of convictions that have happened in communities of color. It's an unjust system.
Not long after Justin died 7 years ago, his parents started a grassroots advocacy group, Drug Crisis in Our Backyard, for families devastated by drugs. Justin was one of 4 boys. At times he did well with the help of a treatment program and stayed out of trouble. But Justin's own mother wishes he had been arrested more than just once. With being locked up, she feels he might been able to stay clean and be alive today.
I think that, they're crazy. Okay, I think that my feeling about it is how can you legalize recreational marijuana when we've got an opiate epidemic on our hands? They go hand in hand.
But while tragic, some officials do not buy into marijuana leading to more serious addiction. State Senator Louis Sepulveda represents parts of the Bronx.
Well, I've done extensive research on gateway drugs, especially with the use of marijuana, and there's no substantial, credible research to establish that it is a gateway drug. And so that characterization I take issue with, and I've had for a couple of years now.
Legalizing marijuana and regulating marijuana is a step in the right direction when it comes to safety, because we're consuming a lot of marijuana in New York with no restrictions as to what's in the marijuana. There's tax dollars, obviously, that are being lost by not legalizing it.
With a few exceptions, Manhattan District Attorney Cy Vance has stopped prosecuting low-level marijuana cases. He's not alone. District attorneys in Brooklyn, Philadelphia, and Boston have similar policies. The Salomons say they could support such decriminalization. Critics also say money from legalized marijuana shouldn't be used by government as a piggy bank to fund other programs.
The argument that is being proposed that it's going to generate tax benefit and be used for good purposes is a false argument, because the cost of health, of lost work, of policing, and of car accidents and increased car accidents, which is evidence in other states that have legalized recreational marijuana, is going to be much higher than any of the benefit.
To think that these kids are not going to smoke marijuana is, it's ridiculous. It would be saying when we were young that we didn't try to have a beer.
But still, what appears to be a central theme for lawmakers, the criminal justice system.
Where is justice and fairness when our kids in our communities are going to jail, are getting scarlet letters that prevent them from getting jobs, getting tuition and assistance, getting opportunities in life that are prevented with a marijuana conviction? That's inherently unjust, and that has to be corrected.
But also in dealing with prior convictions for marijuana and treating them differently once marijuana is legalized, and possibly eliminating some of those convictions, not having it affect parole and changing maybe conditions of parole.
Justin's father doesn't dispute the numbers when it comes to marijuana arrests, but feels the stats are being used as a smokescreen.
I believe it's a Trojan horse. I believe it's a way to get in, because using the race argument is a very hot topic in today's society, so it gets a hot button. And so people, when they hear that, they forget about what the real argument is, and they get diverted to thinking, we got to do this because it's the right thing to do to, alleviate the racial tension in the country.
At the Salamone residence in Brewster, Dominic Carter, BIOS 1 News.
Up next, we will leave politics. We'll even leave the Earth behind. The space race heating up as China lands a rover where no man has ever gone before. And NASA sends a spaceship to the furthest reaches of the solar system.